What's up, guys? Gonna just give this a minute or two real quick. Wanted to announce that the Guide for Ultimate Golf, the new release, is in the store for both Android and iOS users. You should be able to see it in the store. There is a description of this video. It should have the direct links to the store for both iOS. So if you're still looking to get that download, the easiest way would just be by clicking on those links. So far, the data that I'm seeing, about 75% of our users have migrated to the new cut from Android. iOS, it's still brand new, just released a couple hours ago. The data hasn't updated yet. But yep, for those of you who are on Android and may have not shifted over yet, just keep in mind, it's definitely a better cut. Like I said, we're about 75% of our user base is on that cut right now. We were coming up on that this morning. So that's about 3/4 of us. So like I mentioned, definitely going to be an improved update worth the download in the event that you haven't already. Right now, I am just setting up. Trying to find this stream. Kill the sound on this real quick. Skip. Okay. I am in here. We are good to go. I'm going to pop in the Ultimate Golf app real quick. Just get set up. I'm going to try to work through a couple holes. This is not my typical device that I like to play on. But with that being said, I just wanted to kind of go through some adjustments showing some of the new values that we have data for. And of course, one of the most useful is the whole ring span, being able to calculate it for you. Of course, that's exclusively for max type clubs though. So when I go in here, try to pop open this pop-up screen. Like I mentioned, if I go to ring span, it's going to auto change that value for me as I change. So you'll see that ring span, it goes from 17, 18, 9. As you shift the ball percentage and value, you're going to see that new data update each and every time. So it does make it just a little bit easier for you to do. Now, one of the things like I wanted to mention is I just wanted to kind of pop in here. We'll do a couple, why not? Let's jump in this tournament real quick. We're going to do a couple holes for you guys. Like I mentioned, this is not my primary streaming device. It is a Note 9 phone. And I just kind of use it to mess around with and also test. Don't typically play with this one. Not quite as big of a screen as I like. Let's just go in here. Like I mentioned, just gonna turn some stuff on. I have not seen any of these holes. Let's see, what is this? I don't even know what course this is offhand. Is this the Firethorn? Or no, this is Bay Hill. So Bay Hill, one of the things that I'll typically do is I'll try to establish a window that I want to kind of land in. Can't tell if that's really a tight pin or not. Let me just go ahead, we'll swap balls. Up to something like this. Thinking we might be able to go lightning rod here. Maybe not though. Maybe it's better to go for the Bigfoot range. That's more or less what we're going to try to do here off the tee. We'll just position ourselves out to position A. Right down the middle here. Let's take a look. Tailwind. Bigfoot. Trying to stay right in the range. It looks like we did. Of course, there's the Orion min right there. So min values there. This is 5 from min. Here's 7 from min with Orion. It's about half club. So we overshot our drive a little bit. One of the things that you might want to do, just make sure that you got the right equipment. Since I've been testing around, I kind of updated my bag all over the place because I was testing a lot of these values. Let's just go back to a little bit standard. And we'll go to long iron here. It says 3.5 miles per hour. Of course, tailwind. What do we say? About 7. 7 for min, which would be about 14 for max. Since it's the span, as you can see, it's kind of updated it. So 275, more or less the range that we're talking about here. Of course, I'm not 100% sure too much of the brake on this green. See if I can kind of see it a little bit. Looks like it might be deflecting just a tad bit to the left on that guide. So with that being said, I usually try to straighten it up. That's more or less what we're going to do there, is just kind of try to straighten it up with spin. All that looks pretty good. I'm not going to dissect this too much, but just wanted to see, 275. We're going to go pretty close to that 275, kind of straight up in this situation. We're not really pulling off the green, maybe just a little bit low on a little bit tiny lower ground. But you're going to have the biggest thing to contend with here is going to be that ball guide expansion and missing ball guide. You're going to want to make sure that you're giving it enough, and you can see I'm just a little bit light on how much I did there. Should have backed up that guide just a little bit more. Like I said, if you needed to dissect it a little bit more, a little bit easier to do. But of course, it's just going to take more time. You can get a general feel for it the more that you play. I'm a little out of practice. You can see adjustment-wise, probably pretty good. Biggest thing was that initial ball guide, just a little bit too tight. I was hoping a little bit of upslope there would help me. But not quite. Not in that situation, it didn't. So here we are. We are in the Hellfire span here. So I would typically switch to Hellfire. We can try to figure out, how close are we. This is about 5 rings, 5.5 rings. You can see kind of the way that ball guide's breaking. Keep in mind that it is going to collapse down, so you're going to see me go through the hole a little bit. So that's what I'm doing with my alignment here. You see I have this about right. And what did we say this was? About 6 rings, more or less. So it's about halfway through the span. 2.3 rings. And the hardest part is just going to be, figuring out how much do you need to compress for that ball guide. I want to make sure that I get it to the hole, that it doesn't compress too much with that headwind. And then, of course, I'll always just going to come up here to 12-ish o'clock with my needle, and then we'll go the 2.3. 2.3 rings. Like I said, we're just kind of rushing through these adjustments. If you want a little bit more detailed, more involved guide, the one that I did the other day is very in-depth. It's a very slow playthrough. I wanted to kind of show guys, if you want to be methodical about it, you can definitely give yourself some good drops. And that's kind of, what you want to be doing if you really want to be going and competing at the highest level. You want to be dissecting these. You can see with what I was trying to do with my side spin, I used about 2 bars to the left there to just kind of straighten up that guide. You can see it just broke off to the left, so I should have used just a little bit more. So that would be like something towards the future. You know, if you had other playthroughs, or once you get familiar with the course, you could say, okay, yeah, I did 2 last time. It still kind of broke to the left. I could try 2.5 next time. Of course, wind direction is going to definitely factor into that as well. If the wind would have been pointing to the right there, probably would have been about good. Sorry about that. But just wanted to show you, you know, a couple adjustments here and just kind of race through and just kind of show you how easily we could just kind of, you know, work through some of these clubs. Of course, we could do the same thing with Fusion if we wanted to. I don't typically do this too much because I can just, you know, eyeball and say about 1 per is about what I do. So, you know, I don't try to get too specific on things like that. But this is kind of an example here where I would maybe try to keep it back here, try to keep it in my big foot span. So maybe something along the lines of this. So there you can see we get it off the tee here, kind of as best position as we can. We should have stayed in range. It looks like we did, but not by much. So this is really close to the min value. This is maybe, what, 2 rings, 3 rings, 3 rings for min or so. Right here, we're going to push up another one. That's about 4 rings. This is maybe about 5 rings for min for this adjustment. Of course, this is our Bigfoot. Towards min, it shouldn't check up. It should kind of stretch out a little bit. So I'm going to keep this ball guide a little bit deeper than I would typically. Let's go here. Of course, I always like to use the wind directional. And like I said, this is about 5 rings from min, not max. So if ring span's 21.7, I'm going to pull to about 16.7, give or take, because I'm about 5 rings from min. So we need to keep this adjustment towards min. So that's what we do there. What did that say? 285. So 285. And let's just give this a whirl real quick, see what it looks like. All in all, you know, it should be, you know, pretty dialed for the most part. I might have been a little bit too much 1159 with that pull angle. So when I straighten up that wind angle, you probably want to make sure that, you know, you're being a little careful with the angle. You know, you'll see some guys, they really try to dissect and really fine-tune that wind angle. You know, for rough estimates, I'm just kind of giving you the gist. If you want to really go dissect that wind, like I was mentioning, so let's just take a look at whatever the next wind is. It would be one of those things where if I pulled, you know, I probably pulled right around here last time, which is probably just a little bit to 1159. You can actually see it actually looks a little bit tilted. It looks like that line that I have is a little bit tilted. So like this is a 12 o'clock pull. And, you know, like I said, since I don't stream on this device much, it looks like more than anything, this line here, if I can figure out which line it is, because I didn't label these too well. It's this one. So if I could just go in and fine tune it, you know, it's one of those things where it just needs kind of shifted right a little bit. And right now I'm just on this ad version here. But let's just go ahead and just shift this. And you can see that's part of the reason I think why it is where it is. because one tick mark on this device is a very large jump. So you can see with just one pull, it pulls all the way to the opposite side. So the only other thing I could maybe try to do is just kind of widen it up a little bit. But, you know, this is a little bit smaller phone, so, you know, the precision that I can kind of align isn't quite as much. So you can't really, you know, get too deep into that adjustment. But that's more or less what you would be trying to do. And with that last one, I think I just pulled, more than anything, it was just too much pointed towards the 1159, meaning that it was kind of tilted this way. And since it was tilted this way, it under adjusted to the right direction. And so you saw that I missed to the left. And if I would have straightened that up, I used to have this device pretty mastered. I could still do it. Like I would just naturally pull at this angle because I just knew it was the correct amount. It's sometimes what you have to do, but like I said, you know, typically I don't play on this device just because of that whole fact. It's a little bit slower response on the needle too. But like I mentioned, you know, this is live for everybody now, so you should see it in the iOS store. You should see it in the Android. We're just kind of, you know, messing around on here, hitting a couple shots, just kind of showing you what you can do with the adjustments. And we'll try on this one, since it's a, you know, pointed hard to the left again. We'll try to kind of make up for what we did on the last one and just kind of tilt it a little bit more. So let's go back out of here, in here. We'll go this wind direction. Hellfire 3.8. 7% ball is going to give me a close enough estimate. I'm not going to change it to 10. Usually on average it's about 0.1 or less difference. So 0.7, you know, I can kind of show you it here visually. 2.5, it's going to change it to 2.55. I mean, it's negligible. So that's why you can see that I'm just kind of keeping it at the wrong value, because it really doesn't change anything. I can usually just, it's close enough that I can, you know, work through it in my head what I need to switch. This is about 6 or 7 rings for max, so it's, I think, somewhere in the midway span. 6 or so for max is right in here. It's going to change my adjustment down. Keep in mind, this is a backspin adjustment. So if 2.46 is full backspin, you're going to have to do overplay with top spin, or even no spin. So I'm thinking somewhere in the 2.6 range, somewhere in here, would be a good estimate. So that's why you're going to see me overpull this. So like I mentioned, 2.6, somewhere in that realm. I'm not sure if that's enough ball guide adjustment. I'm not really familiar with this course whatsoever. So, you know, I'm a little bit sloppy with knowing how much to adjust and factor in. It really just comes from repetition more so than anything. So the more you play the course, the more familiar you get with it, the more that you know you have to tweak. A little early on my timing there, but it doesn't look like it's going to affect this shot. Looks like it's still rolling off to the left. I should have gave that full top spin as well. You can see that green, it's pulling off to the left. But the approach, you know, it's more or less kind of what we were looking for, other than the fact I didn't know it was really breaking off to the left. I've only played this course once. So with that being said, I could have done more to try to figure out the way that it was breaking. But, you know, just for the most part, just trying to hit the ball up there. Not too worried about, I'm not even planning on playing the tournament. Just wanted to go in here and just kind of give you guys a feel for some of these adjustments. And let's see if we could just, you know, do 1 or 2 more real quick. But, you know, like I said, it is available now for you guys. So if you guys are hopefully seen it in the store, let's take this one up and try to get this to the hive distance. I've had, some people mention hive to me. So why don't we just try to blast this up here, try to keep it in the fairway, get a hive shot. So I've definitely been hearing some players mention the challenges with hive. And, it's kind of challenging for all of us. A lot of people, I know for the longest time, they would avoid this distance intentionally. It's because it's so hard to make the shots. So it would basically keep it out of here on purpose. I've never really been afraid of this distance because I had a really good feel for it. But with that being said, this is the hardest club to master for sure. No question about that. So here's the max club. If I was to turn this sideways, we should see, do you see my, this 100% span tool here? It just shows you that's 100% hive span. So what it lets me do is it lets me pick a land zone here. So we can pick a land zone. Usually I'll come in and do these with backspin and try to just slow roll it into the hole, kind of like this. And then what I'll do is I'll just kind of figure out real fast what are we talking about percent-wise. Real close to 80. Lie comes into play here. If this appears to be uphill, it's going to be more affected by wind. It looks slightly uphill, but very marginal. I would imagine a 4-1 backspin version. We're going to do, as you can see, I was probably 81, 82%, somewhere in there. I'm thinking, 7 1/4 rings for this adjustment. You always want to kind of dissect this ball guide. What I expect, you see how I kind of have it on the front lip? Since it's a tailwind, it's going to stretch out a little bit. So if I go 7 1/4, maybe just a little bit heavier on that, just because of the fact that, 4, it's a little bit larger wind, plus it might be just a tad uphill. So with it being just slightly uphill, we might just overpull here. So maybe pushing towards 7.3 for the adjustment. And here it's coming in right straight on the pin. So just like that, we're able to get it. Like I mentioned, I was able to get hive on the last video as well. It's one of those clubs. I'm telling, it's the hardest to master. So if you could see that I can still do hive, that's really just saying that, it took a lot of practice to get there, but it's one of those things that once you start to actually get it and more practice, the better you're going to get with that shot. And then you're going to have that feel for those little 1% differences, for example. So with that shot particularly, I just knew, I know the way wedge plays. It's the only time elevation kind of comes into factor. So instead of me using elevation, I just over adjust my percentage. And that's exactly what I did. So I was like somewhere up in here, 82%. Even though we were kind of pulling down. So I'm just kind of like over pulling by like 1 or 2% on the slider is all we're doing. So that gives you a rough idea. And all the situations are going to be a little bit different. But every time you have that same situation, it's going to be pretty universal. Now, the only thing that might happen, if it's a little bit more uphill, you might have to just increase that. You might have to go 4 or 5%. So there's some holes, they're so uphill, I might be going 7.5, 7.6, that type of thing where I'm over pulling. Same thing with as wind gets a little bit stronger, it starts pushing wedges harder. So you'll also see that there's going to be like a ball guide deflection factor. That's going to get stronger the higher that wind gets. So as it gets into the 5, 6, 7s, 8s, you're going to see a lot of wind effect start to deflect that ball guide to the right. So definitely keep that in mind. And let me take a look at this. Not sure what hole this is or what the distance is. So hoping we can maybe get one shot from lightning rod. It looks like we got to get up to about there, up to kind of the top of the water there. I don't know if that's going to be possible. Maybe I'll just lay it up because I don't think I'm going to be able to get it up there. I could be wrong. I should probably use a barchetta for this. Out of bounds, it's telling me. I shouldn't have tried to shave off that corner. Like I said, I'm just trying to get it up to a specific range, so I'm just kind of getting a little too cute. As you could see there. Let's try it one more time. Like I said, it's probably still, what I'm probably going to do is just chip it up there. Because instead of, playing this hole, we're trying to focus on shots more so than holes and distances. I'm not worried about my score. If you were worried about your score, that's where you'd want to fine tune some of this stuff and make sure that you're a little bit more careful. Probably bring the barchetta. But what I had in mind for this was I was trying to get it up here to a lightning rod distance, and even if it wasn't, I was just going to chip up to it. So it looks like, maybe just to make this a little bit easier, I'll just chip it up just slightly. Because I did want to do one lightning rod shot. If somebody's watching this and they didn't see me hit it, they might not think it's a relevant club. So I wanted to include this in the guide just so they know, hey, this is a legit club that you have to really think about carrying and, in fact, using pretty much anytime you can. So anytime you get in distance for this, my preferred is lightning rod over the Bigfoot. So definitely recommend, even at any level, even if it's missing guide, this is my go-to. It always has been, and the more that you utilize it, the more you just kind of remember those adjustments. So you'll see that the span's already in there for me, 79. We'll go find max, which is here. We'll just start pulling rings down. So there's 5 rings, there's 10 rings, there's 12-ish rings, and then we're going to try to straighten up that ball guide. 12-ish rings for max. Something to the effects of this. 12-ish rings for max. This wind direction. We'll pull this down to 12, and we'll get our ring pull. So 984. Again, like I was mentioning about pull angle, so this time you're going to see, I'm just going to kind of shoot this off to the right a little bit. We talked about this halfway through the guide. So that's why I have it kind of offset to the right here, because this is more true north on this device. So 984 is what we're striving for, so almost the full bullseye. And that's what we're going to do, one pull. Like I said, we're just kind of rocking through these fast, not taking them too seriously. But with that being said, I kind of know what the ball guide's supposed to look like in tailwind, crosswind. So I just know that this is going to kind of roll out to the right amount, but it's just short. So, but like I said, I knew it was like really, really close, just from experience. I know what the ball guide on lightning rod is supposed to look like for my 7. So I just kind of was going off memory there, and you can see it's very close. Definitely giving you the values that you need. All you got to do is those fine-tune adjustments. So, you should be good to go with these adjustments. Like I said, if you do have further questions, feel free to post them in the comments. I'm going to kind of drop off of the stream here. I wanted to keep this a little bit short, work through the shots a little bit faster, just so you can see, we can work through these fast. That's what it's for. It's for easy calculation to where you don't have to play around in a half hour, 45 minutes. We can just rocket through some of these holes. We just put it out in the fairway in less than a minute, get the value, try to keep our rounds going, play fast, and be able to, just not have to worry about the calculator. You just plug in the numbers and go with them. So good luck out there, guys. Didn't see any questions pop up in the stream here, but just wanted to, just give you guys a brief introduction to all of this. And like I mentioned, in the Android store, when we go to Guide for Ultimate Golf, free to download. And then on top of that, that update should be there. Well, like I said at the beginning of the stream, we're about 75%. Definitely recommend upgrading to the latest cut. So as soon as you click on this, for example, you should see the cut information right at the bottom. Requirements, Android 7.0 and up, and 1.3.11 is going to be the cut that you're looking for. And same with iOS. You'll just go to the App Store, and then you go to the search, Guide for Ultimate Golf, and get on that update. It's definitely going to make things a little bit easier for you, and definitely going to give you better values. Only one thing that I want to briefly mention, let's say, you're just coming over to this update, you might want to go ahead and reset those club calibrations. So first off, I do get some questions from time to time. What are calibrations? I don't get them. I don't understand. If you look at my calibrations, this was only to test. This shouldn't even be in here. I don't even use calibrations. So for me personally, I don't need them. But once you've mastered the club and I want my Hellfire 7 on a 10, like I would just go to the wind calculator, and if I push in 10 wind, I know that I want this to land at, 8.5 rings would be an example, or 8.55. So I would use the club calibration to just make that happen. So we'll reduce this value down until I'm happy and satisfied. And this is only for guys who are trying to use known values that they've been using all along. They want it to land at 855 because they've been doing it forever. So, that's basically what club calibrations are for. Keep in mind, they're, not necessary. The defaults are right where I like to see the ball land, and it's just personal preference. Some guys, they might want to see it land a little bit more right and utilize some kind of side spin or some kind of counter spin to kind of counteract wind effect. And the difference is kind of like, do I like to land it right here, or do I like to land it, a cup over? That type of thing. And like I mentioned, and similarly, if you don't use full backspin on all shots, then the values are going to be a little bit shifted for you. So that's the purpose of club calibrations. But keep in mind, like I mentioned, mine is blank. I only, use them to test them. And that's it. So like I said, it's definitely something that you can use, but what I recommend is just having mastered the club. If yes, I play this shot all the time, I know I want this to land at this distance, then that's when you do a club override. It's basically overriding the ring data, is all it does. But like I said, I like to keep it exactly. I like having no calibrations because that's what my data is designed to do. It lands the ball where I want it, and then I just alter my spin or, really fine tune that wind angle, that type of thing with my ring pulls. So keep all that in mind. Good luck out there, and take care. See you guys next time.